Celtics Beat is brought to you by PrizePicks.
Hey everybody, welcome in. It's a brand new edition of Celtics Beat, and you've got the Syracuse trifecta coming at you. Although there are different versions of this that we have experimented with along the way. But hey, we love our guy Brian Barrett from Spotify and The Ringer, of course, hosts the Off the Pike podcast that he is kind enough to welcome us onto from time to time as well. I am Adam Kaufman, joined, of course, as always, by Evan Valenti. If you miss any of this show or any other great Celtics podcast available to you through CLNS, we always like to remind you, check out the CLNS Media YouTube page and specifically the All Access page, which is right where you can find our shows, our content, even Noah Dalzell, part of the network. Today, sit down with Gordon Hayward recently, reflecting upon his time in Boston, and of course, the audio version, wherever you get your podcast, rate, review, most importantly, subscribe. Fellas, welcome to March. I know it's mid-March. March is underway, but the madness, it's right around the corner. Selection Sunday is upon us. I mentioned Syracuse. I have to mention that, as the three of us probably sit here hoping Jerry McNamara will be the next head coach of the former Orange men turned Orange. But no, people out there, they don't like when we cross sports. This is still the same sport, but we go down a level. You want Celtics talk, we'll give you Celtics talk. Coming off a road trip 1-2, but it's not exactly like it was a disappointing road trip by any stretch. You had a nice win in Cleveland, an 11-point victory there, whereas we saw it was just a good balanced offensive attack. And then the controversy surrounding the San Antonio loss, Jaylen Brown getting ejected. We can talk about that some. Jayson Tatum, he had another good performance. And then the kind of sort of maybe almost scheduled loss in OKC. No Tatum, no White, obviously no Vooch. And the Celtics still put up a fight, narrowly steal that one, lose by 2 points. So, guys, let's start there. Overarching thoughts as the C's, as we sit here, get ready to host the Wizards a little bit later on tonight. Apologies if people are tuning in after that game. It's not going to be a game preview. The road trip. Barrett, what did we think of it?
Well, first of all, to the Wizards' point, you may have history tonight. Somebody may score 84 points against the Wizards because we saw Bam go for 83 earlier.
This is going to be the ultimate JT coming out.
Maybe it's Pritchard. Maybe Pritchard goes for 84 in this game. Overall, I was fine with the results of the road trip. I thought the Cavaliers game was very impressive, especially the way that Tatum looked at the beginning of that game. And then unfortunate situation in the Spurs game. And I thought they fought pretty well when after Jaylen got ejected, and Tatum had sort of a spot there where he had it going a little bit and then felt like he kind of ran out of gas. So it was kind of weird how they managed the minutes, I felt, in the San Antonio game compared to the Cleveland game. Because if you go back to the Cleveland game, Tatum has that incredible start. And then you have the situation where I believe it was Shireman, correct me if I'm wrong, Tatum's at the free throw line, Shireman's getting ready to check in. And so you can't take Tatum out because he's the free throw shooter. So he ends up playing like almost 9 minutes in the first quarter. And clearly the plan had been, hey, let's play the first 6 minutes of each of those quarters. And if you go back to the San Antonio game the other night, there was one of the quarters, I can't remember off the top of my head, where he came out after like 2 minutes. So I think they were trying to manage, hey, if we need him down the stretch of the game. And I think Mazzulla's done a really good job what he can do with these minutes. Even though there's no minutes threshold, he plays 27 minutes every game. We kind of know what it is. Like there was one game where he brought him back in at the end. It was first game back where it looked rusty. And then he brought him back for the end of the second quarter. And I thought that was really important to get him a couple of baskets before halftime, just to get some confidence. Because the way that second quarter looked for Tatum in the first game, I'm like, oh boy, this looks a little bit rusty, but he's able to figure it out. Obviously the shooting percentage isn't there. And then the OKC game, I don't know about you guys, my long-winded way of answering your question, Kaufman.
Sorry, it was a long-winded introduction to you, so it's okay.
I came away from that game incredibly pissed off because it's just tough for me to watch Shea. I know he's arguably the best player in the NBA. He's going to win back-to-back MVPs, and everybody's going to reference, of course, you see the play that's on social media with Jordan Walsh, where he loses the ball and he gets rewarded for that. But I do think there is something to what Jaylen's saying, and I'm not saying that Jaylen doesn't try to get fouls, but Shea right now is the most egregious guy in the NBA. Luka, I guess, would be in that category. Harden is the GOAT. I mean, just the greatest of all time. Harden would drive, grab a guy's arm, and somehow the official will make a call. I just don't know how, and look, they're calling it, so give him credit, I guess, for getting to the free throw line. But it was just really tough to watch. And the way the whole game ended on the free throw line, too, after Jaylen, was hitting clutch shot, it's just tough to watch.
So,
but I do feel good about that. I do feel good, like the way that they performed in that game in OKC. And I know OKC was missing guys, but Celtics are missing the guy that wears number 0 and also the plus minus king and Derek White. So I felt pretty good about the road trip in totality. I just hated the game. Like, it was a very entertaining game, but it was also an annoying game. And I think anytime you play that team, it's going to be annoying. And say, hypothetically, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Those two teams meet in the finals.
mm-hmm.
We will hate that team if the Celtics make it to the NBA Finals.
I mean, first of all, Ev, I do want your thoughts on the road trip. We can do that in just a second. And how dare you with this plus minus king stuff for White? We all know that's Ugo. But I need to go back to the SGA stuff because I get it. I think it's a little rich coming from Jaylen after he had 14 free throw attempts in that game and SGA had 8. But nevertheless, I realize the way you get there, it's a little bit different. Jaylen was, he's not the free throw merchant and all this stuff people like to say about SGA. And Jaylen never has been. Jaylen, if nothing else, complains that he's not getting that opportunity to go to the free throw line and getting those superstar calls in the way that SGA or, Harden in the past or Brunson or some of these guys that we accuse of being, just again, merchants of trying to get themselves to the free throw line. But it doesn't bother me in the way that it bothers you. It really doesn't. And again, I know people don't like it when we reference other sports, but I'm going to bring this to football for a second. I'm not someone that has a problem with the tush push, for instance. People want to legislate the tush push out of the NFL. For me, it's like, figure out how to stop it, guys. Like, if you got that big an issue with it, either figure out how to do it yourselves or figure out how to stop it. To me, with SGA and kickouts or the way that, he tries to draw fouls, like, figure out a way around it then. If you got that.
Yeah, but also, how about the officials? How about the officials? Don't call them fouls. They're not fouls. Don't call those fouls.
But that's just a bigger issue with the league. And the league, tried to legislate some of that stuff a couple of years ago, not allowing for the, Harden kick out on threes, saying, hey, we're going to start. Not only are we not going to give you that call, we're going to start to call it an offensive foul and these things. But it all reverts back. It finds a way to come back to where it was. And that's where we're at with SGA. And SGA, by the way, I realize he's always among the leaders, if not 2, 3, but he doesn't lead the league regularly in free throw attempts per game. What he does oftentimes do is sit atop the league as he does right now in free throw makes. Good. Take advantage of it. If you're going to get there, make your free throws. And so I don't know. I like SGA a lot. I like him as a dude. I like him as a player. I know he's doesn't have the most, marketable personality so far as we've seen so far. And I know he's gone and done a couple of commercials, but he's not everywhere in the way that a guy like Tatum is, for instance. But I think this guy just wants to ball. And if you're going to draw some fouls along the way, good on you. OKC is an elite team, a fun watch, a good group of young guys, and I don't have an issue with it. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to officiating for both of those things. Like the Philadelphia Eagles, tush push wasn't nearly as effective when they started calling the Eagles for false starts every time they run that play because they false start they get a head start, and that's why it's so effective, right? Same thing with Shea. Shea's just manipulating the rule book, and the refs call it. I mean, I don't have nearly as big of an issue with it. And again, I'm like Barrett. I'll hate it if they play the Thunder in the finals. It'll drive me crazy. Sure. But at the same time, that's not why the Celtics lost the game. They didn't lose the game because Shea's foul baiting. Shea killed them at the end of the game 1-on-1 from the top of the key routinely. And the Celtics ran out of gas. Like, that's why they lost the game, not because Shea's foul baiting. Shea is just, he's so quick in half court sets, and he's so good at manipulating angles with his body that he's really tough to officiate, and he puts the onus on the officials. He just does what he needs to do to win games. I have zero problem with it. Again, I'm going to also say that I feel the need that I will probably reverse course if they play in the finals, but like, he's just manipulating the rule book to make it work. And that's just, if you want a rule change, fine, but that's just the way the rules are.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, and look, specifically in that game, there were a couple of times that he did it, and I'm like, how is he getting these calls? The Walsh one is just like, that's an all-timer. I mean, that's just horrible, but the official messed that one up. Like that, I don't understand how he messed that one up. But I think like Jaylen's overall gripe about it is, and it was funny where he got not caught on mic. He said that's not basketball at one of the plays that Shea got the foul on, and Shea kind of looked back at him. But I think if you look at it, so on the season, top 3 players in drives per game, Denny Advia is number 1, Jaylen Brown is number 2, and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is number 3. And if you look at free throws per game, Luka's number 1 in the league, Shea's number 2 in the league, and those are the guys that do the most foul baiting. Denny Advia's 3rd in the league, and Jaylen Brown is right outside the top 10 in free throws per game. So here's the thing that I would say about that. I understand why Jaylen wants more free throw attempts. He says he plays the game the right way, doesn't foul bait and all this. But like that number that Jaylen's at doesn't seem crazy to me because to the point that he's making, he isn't foul baiting. Like when he's driving, he's either stopping on a dime and shooting or he's getting all the way to the bucket, right? He's not, and he's going to try to go through you with force. When you look at Advia is one of these guys that's going to slow down. He's going to let you hit him on the back. Shea does the same thing, and I'm not saying this is foul baiting. I'm just pointing out like Shea's going to get the defender on the back, draw contact that way. He's going to be crafty, and at times he'll grab the other guy's arm, and somehow he's the guy that gets awarded the free throw. Jaylen doesn't do anything like of that nature. So I'm sure he sees the numbers that I see, and he says, well, I'm driving as much as these guys in terms of the guys that are getting to the free throw line the most, and I think that's where the frustration comes from his part. But I would also say, like, I don't think there's like a ton of missed calls. Like the first San Antonio game, yes, they missed calls. They missed calls in that game. But overall, like I don't think Jaylen is officiated sort of unfairly. I think it's just other guys are gaming the system. And I think that's where sort of the aggravation comes from on his part is like, hey, he thinks I'm playing the game the right way. These guys are doing some BS stuff and they're getting rewarded for it. That's why I think he gets so aggravated about it.
It's just one of those situations where even if like, and can we admit something here? Jaylen pushes off all the time. So does Tatum. Can we do that? It's
Tatum's one of the worst guys in the league with it.
Yeah, it's like they all do stuff to try and gain an advantage, and I think.
Which, by the way, good.
Yeah, right. Like Pritchard does it all the time, and they never call Pritchard for pushing off because he's usually pushing off a guy that's 6'10", and because he's near the basket all the time and stuff like that, he just throws like the shoulder or give him a little bit of elbow or something. When he get a little bit of separation, a little bit of daylight, and I think the refs are like, dude, he's 6'1", you're 6'10", figure it out. Like you got to use every little trick to your advantage, and I have no problem with Shea doing it his way, Jaylen doing it his way, Jayson, Peyton, whatever works. I will say this road trip, to bring it back to this question, this road trip I think proved to the NBA that Boston is either the deepest team in the league or one of the deepest teams in the league because of what they've been able to roll out at wing from the San Antonio game, the Cleveland game, San Antonio game, and the Oklahoma City game, specifically the last two. Like Ron Harper Jr. is having just a heck of a week. Baylor Shireman's doing 18 different things in a game that win them games. Ugo, who we all love, has been a little bit quieter lately, but just does like 17 things a game where you're like, wow, that was amazing. Jordan Walsh comes off the bench against Oklahoma City, hasn't played in a while. He was excellent in that game. Like they just keep rolling out dudes that I don't know what it is that Joe Mazzulla tells these guys on the bench before they go out there, but they just go out there and they battle their ass off. And when you look at that Oklahoma City game specifically, I watched that game and I'm like, Boston is like so undermanned because in this game they're missing Tatum and White. But if you told those guys that, they don't care because those guys that went out and they competed for 48 minutes as much as they possibly could, flying around the court, trying to get every offensive rebound, trying to get every loose ball humanly possible. That's why that game was so close because they literally won. Or at least tried to win on every single margin they could. And as you get ready for these playoffs and the way that I think Boston's going to try and play here, I couldn't be more encouraged by the way the benches responded to those 3 games. Because
I'll tell you, Ev, I'm just looking at some starting numbers, which feeds only partially into your point. Hauser, and I know you didn't mention him, he's not really part of that next group, but 35 starts this year. Walsh, 20. Shireman, 17. Minot, of course, we remember that run, 10. I mean, really, I don't know what Joe's telling these guys either right before they're about to check in or right before a game tips off. But what he should be telling them, and I'm sure in some way is kind of intimating, is, play like you're never going to play again. Because right now, you got my trust, you got my faith, get out there and show it. And these guys, to your point, and, it's just, for all of us that we here on this show, like sort of the royal we on this show, some guests along the way as well, but definitely Evan and I had higher expectations for this team going into the year than most. Not expectations like where they're at right now. Nobody was talking about winning a championship, but both of us were sitting there feeling good about, okay, like this could be a team that is firmly in the playoff mix, can win you 45 games, can be a top 4 seed in the East, all of these things independent of Tatum. What they are doing right now, Barrett suggested it before, others along the way, we've talked about it. We had Grandy on last week. The fact that this team is realistically, not delusionally, in the conversation to represent the Eastern Conference, held the favorite to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals, is bonkers. And as much as we want to celebrate an MVP caliber kind of season from Jaylen Brown and Derek White finding his shot, or Peyton Pritchard off the 6th man of the year doing the things that he is doing, really what it comes down to is these role guys. This team is, I know these aren't the guys that get the headlines, but Minot earlier in the year, Walsh, Shireman, Ugo, and these guys right now, the Kata's, even though Kata's a starter, Garza, like all of these guys, like your guys that are making dick for money. Like, I mean, some of these guys are like, you put half of them to half the roster is making a combined like $13-14 million. And these are the dudes that, no, they're not leading you per se, but in many ways are carrying you. And it's just, man, I don't know. I don't know who you give the credit to. Is it Joe for getting them to play the way they are? Is it these guys for owning the opportunity? Is it Brad, Zarin, and the rest of the front office for putting them on the roster in the first place? It has been unreal to watch here, Barrett.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's a combination of all those things, because they look at these guys and it's specific things they ask them to do. We know what Joe Mazzulla wants to do, and he harps on it. Every team wants to do this. Mazzulla is just the most outspoken about it. He wants to win the possession game. He says it all the time. And if you look at what Ugo Gonzalez does when he's on the court, and I'm not saying it's all him, but a lot of it is him when he's on the court, the Celtics offensive rebounding percentage goes up by 3 percentage points, which is in the 82nd percentile via cleaning the glass. And the opponent's turnover percentage goes up 3.1 percentage points, which is in the 94th percentile via cleaning the glass. So they're turning the ball over more often when Ugo's on the court. We see what Ugo does, how he just aggravates ball handlers. At points, guys are just like, yeah, okay, you bring it up. I don't want to deal with this dude. He's picking me up at the other free throw line. I don't need this in my life right now. And then he's one of the best corner crashers already in the NBA. So he has that specific role. Same thing you can say about Shireman. Shireman has been incredible at those corner crashes where what Shireman does, usually Ugo will go up and sometimes he'll grab it, sometimes he'll tap it out. Shireman's just the king of the tap out. He just taps it back out to the 3-point line and he gets extra possessions that way. And I think one of the things that's been nice to see with Shireman, and Brad's basically been drafted in the same area the past few drafts. Obviously, they moved back with the Walsh pick, but it's all these guys that are like between 6'6" and 6'8", that can sort of float between multiple positions. I've been impressed with the way Shireman's played defense. I did not see that coming. Yeah. And then he has, obviously at this particular point in time, he's a more seasoned offensive player than Ugo. Like, he's a much better ball handler. He's a really crafty passer. And now we're seeing him get into the Klay Thompson, Sam Hauser, no dip 3-point attempts, which is a pretty impressive thing in and of itself. I think both him and Ugo, I think, have really good instincts. So it's all what you said about Joe, the players individually, Brad Stevens drafting these guys, but the player development, like for a guy like Kata, you look at all the centers that left the Celtics. Porzingis is making $30 million. He's barely played this season, right? Even Cornette's playing, making over $10 million. And you could argue Kata's been a more impactful player on a per minute basis this season. As much as we love Cornette, Horford, what has he done? He's making over $5 million for Golden State. That team stinks. And you look at Kata, he's making like just over $2 million this season. And if you just look at it in terms of the guys that left, Drew, who dealt with his injury situation this year, we mentioned Porzingis, Al Horford, Cornette has been solid in his role. Like, this team would be worse, and I know it's going to sound crazy, would be worse if they actually didn't do the sell-off. Like, if they just brought the team back, this team would actually be worse than it is right now because of the health situation. And you could say, oh, different situations. Well, this is what we know about older players. They get hurt. And Porzingis was sick last year, and they never figured that out, right? So I'm not blaming the Celtics for that. I feel bad for Porzingis. But it's amazing. Like, we understood they had to make the pivot for financial reasons, right? It was the best thing to do for the future of the organization. But for them to find all these guys that can play this way and contribute, it's really crazy. Like, juxtaposes to the Milwaukee Bucks. Who have they found? Like, they got Ryan Rollins from Golden State. He's their only, like, good guy that's young. Like, Green, yeah, okay, he can shoot. They don't have anybody on the roster, and the Celtics have a million guys.
Well, let's take well, we can keep going with this, and I want to keep going with this because I find it really interesting, and we are obviously beyond the midpoint of the year. We're basically 3/4 of the way through the year, but it's even a little bit beyond that, actually. But it's just a nice time to periodically kind of reset and evaluate what we are seeing. And by the way, just to piggyback on what Barrett just said, and Ev, you know this, like, to credit our guy Landman, who's comes on with us from time to time. I mean, he's months ago, he texted us one day and he was like, "Hey guys, like, just kind of thinking here, in his way." He's like, I know they had to do all the stuff they had to do financially, but, like, have we ever considered that maybe they also did it for basketball reasons? Because this team is way better than it would have been keeping all of those guys around if it even had the ability to do so in the first place. But let's take a quick break. Tell you today's episode is powered by PrizePicks. Shoot your shot on PrizePicks. Get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first for only $5. That's right. PrizePicks now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting, so you don't miss this chance. You can't miss it to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks, Ev.
Yeah, PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Get your picks right, cash it in, and you can play a whole myriad of sports: basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, soccer, college basketball with March Madness coming up. So pumped. Tennis, golf, Masters right around the corner. Cannot wait for that. Esports and more. Kaufman, guess what happened last week?
I'm gonna guess flex play worked out for you.
Yeah, I went 2 out of 3 again. It is just remarkable, the streak that I'm on this year. It's unreal. And with that in mind, we have our flex play Friday, but we're giving it to you on a Saturday. We're gonna go first leg of the flex play, boys. We're going Con Knipple. More than 2.5 threes made against the Spurs in the game that I think is going to be way more entertaining than people thought at the beginning of the season. And then we're going to go Celtics specific for the next 2. We're going to go Jaylen, who's on an incredible run right now in terms of racking up assists. Jaylen more than 5.5 assists against the Wizards. Now, he's had 7 for the past 7 games. First time anybody's done that since Rondo. Thank you, Dick Life. Appreciate that. Reason why this number is a little tricky is because I don't think that Jaylen's going to get a full run in here playing the Wiz. I think they'll probably take him out towards the end of this game.
20-point favorite.
Yeah, it's going to be embarrassing. So we're going to take that. We're going to take that because I think Jaylen could be the distributor of this game. And then we're going to take Baylor Shireman, who I was trying to find a lineup projection for to get him in here. I've been so impressed the way he's played recently. So we're going Baylor Shireman more than 7.5 rebounds and assists combined against the Wiz. I think you might just get that in rebounds. And I juiced it up a little bit because I think you can get it at 5.5, 6.5 to 7.5. And 7.5 has got a little bit of better payout in that. So I took that. I hit all 3. I 4.5x my money. 2 out of 3, I just get my money back, which is what has been happening to me frequently. And getting your money back couldn't be any easier. Little 15 minutes rolls into your account. I use Venmo. It's great. And if you're on fire, you hit all of them quickly, you get early payouts too, which has never happened to me, Kaufman. We're still waiting on that magical day when I get to cash out early.
We remind you, PrizePicks, it's the place to be. Again, as Ev just said, if your lineup is on fire, PrizePicks, it offers early payout. Regardless, hopefully you're getting that money. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after playing your first for only $5. That is code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first for just $5. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. We're hanging out here with Brian Barrett, and it's funny, actually. Poetic in a way. So we take our little break there to talk about our good friends at PrizePicks. And during that couple minutes that we stepped away, this in real time, I apologize again if you're watching on YouTube, you're listening after the fact on the podcast, but in real time, guys, I got a slew of injury updates across the NBA for Sunday, courtesy of the Underdog NBA account. Two of the names on that list, Al Horford, calf, listed out for Sunday. Kristaps Porzingis, illness management, listed out for Sunday. It just, again, it just keeps, it goes beyond age. This is just, again, kind of unfortunately where these guys are at in their careers, which again leads us to, again, just kind of celebrate the youth and the depth on this roster that, going back to sort of the way I introed this topic, I thought the Celtics would be good this year. Not this good, not NBA Finals, potentially championship caliber good, but good. Not this tank, see you in the lottery. Right now, we're already looking ahead to who do you want in the top 5 if the ping pong balls bounce our way. I thought the Celtics would be good. What I couldn't have been more wrong about, though, is I didn't see them getting there this way. I didn't see it transpiring as we are seeing it, to where so much of that emphasis comes back to, again, these depth guys that we just keep celebrating and talking about. I didn't see Walsh, Shireman, I'll leave Ugo out because he's a rookie, but these, guys who have been around for a year, 2, 3 years, taking the leap. Garza, even within this system, really being used exactly the right way. Ev, how many times did I make that stupid joke about, I don't know if the Celtics even have a G League caliber front court.
Dude, we
led
they podcast with it for a month.
Kata is a top 10 center in the NBA right now by many statistical margins, and Garza looks a lot better than Vucevic has looked since the Celtics acquired him. So again, just the fact that they are doing what they're doing, Barrett, specifically the way they are doing it, not to continue to harp on the conversation we were just having, but I couldn't be more impressed. I really couldn't. And to me, I'll make this comparison. It's not exactly apples to apples, but go with me on it. You think back to the 2018-19 season where the Celtics, got actually it was a 17-18. It was a 17-18 season when they bring in Gordon Hayward and they bring in Kyrie Irving and those guys, and they suffer their injuries. And all of a sudden, you've got this teenage Jayson Tatum and 21-year-old Jaylen Brown, and they're positioned to take on loads more responsibility than anybody would have ever desired that they get that early in the year and that early in their careers. And they run with it. They go on that deep playoff run. No, they didn't win a championship, but it fed them going forward. This group, and we said this is one thing we did say at the beginning of the year, Ev. We said in a perfect world, this group is able to take advantage of not having Jayson Tatum, of having all of that turnover from veterans to younger players, to where suddenly the next iteration, the next incarnation of a Celtics championship, of Banner 19, comes from these guys who capitalize, who thrive in this position. We telegraphed it. I just didn't actually think, Barrett, it would happen.
Yeah, well, I think, and I didn't even mention Kata earlier. It's good that you brought him up there because that may have been the most important piece. Because I was with you guys. I thought, hey, this could be one of, if not the worst front courts in the NBA. Like in the definitely tanking division, right? The teams that we knew coming into the season were trying to lose, but the teams that were actually trying, because the Celtics were going to try no matter what. For Kata to develop into this player, I was looking it up earlier this week. If you look at the top 4 guys that have played at least 1,000 minutes this year, out of the top 4 guys in terms of the on-off numbers defensively, it's Rudy Gobert's number 1, and then Derek White and Kata were right in between Victor Wembanyama. Now, Victor Wembanyama has now flipped Kata because of the game that we saw, a couple of games that we saw this week. But my overall point with that is he's become an incredible defensive anchor for this team, and he knows exactly what he's supposed to do offensively. He sets screens. Like they don't play 5 out with Kata, which the Celtics love in the past to play 5 out. They've adjusted to him. He's a great role man. He's actually, I've been pretty impressed with some of the passing he's been able to make where he can shoot it out to the corner, get guys open 3-point opportunities. But my big thing with Cade is let's see what happens in the playoffs, right? Because if you look at this Eastern Conference situation, and we saw him the other day where they played the Cavs, they didn't have Allen, they did have Mobley. He was good in that. Fine in that game. But the Pistons have a big front court when we're talking about Duren and we're talking about Stewart. And then the Knicks, we saw what happened to the Celtics in the playoffs last year. Mitchell Robinson, who I still think Joe Mazzulla probably thinks Mitchell Robinson is the best player in the league, by the way that they operated in that particular series. But the point being is you're going to have a lot of bigs, a lot of front courts to go through. The Vucevic thing, I think Garza has been better for this team too. I agree with you on that. But let's see how that front court holds up. But the bigger, more important thing that you mentioned there is if you look at where OKC's at with all these young players around their young stars, San Antonio is now in that same place where they have all these young guys around them. The Celtics, this is a critical year to find out about a few guys. Like, hey, if one of these wings hits, it'll be huge. Is Cade really a starting center? And so now what you've done is you've sort of, and Pritchard's gone to a different level in his game this year where he's in the 95th percentile as an isolation score. I mean, he's incredible. He's putting guys on skates half the time. But my bigger point with that is just the fact that, all right, you have two guys that are on supermax contracts when you're talking about Tatum and you're talking about Jaylen. They have huge contracts and they deserve those contracts. So what you have to do in this new world is find players on cheap contracts. And the most important thing about the way that the Celtics have found these guys, all these guys are young and developing players. It's not like these journeymen they've brought in. They're a bunch of young guys that can now grow with Tatum and Jaylen and Derek White. And the thing about it is you already have the stars. So you needed the supporting players to go around them. And look, I think all these guys have varying upsides. Like Ugo has the highest upside of this group just because of the raw athleticism. Like we haven't seen much of his offensive game yet. I've been a little bit more impressed with his handle recently. I had that one game against the Warriors where he put it behind his back, drove all the way to the basket. It was an incredible play by Ugo. But I just feel like the organization is in a really good spot because of what Brad has done in the front office. And then secondarily, everybody that is part of that sort of culture developing these players. Like it's incredible to see how well all these guys have played when they've gotten their opportunities.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about Ron Harper, who was just impressed the hell out of the past couple of games. Like, he's a G League guy. They brought him up because they need an end-of-the-bench guy. They got to fill the minimum rosters or whatever. And now you're looking at it like, they got to – Kaufman, we were talking about this was it the Oklahoma City game or was it the Spurs game where we were both, oh, what kind of contract does Ron Harper get now? Like, this is getting to the point where – They might have too many good bench guys to keep them all going into the future. And you're going to figure out what the hell they're going to do with some of these guys. But like Ron Harper comes off the bench and like not even off the bench, like off the bus from Maine, comes in and just contributes immediately in a couple different areas. He's hitting catch and shoot jump shots. He's putting the ball on the deck a little bit. He defends his ass off. I don't think do you guys know what Ron Harper's like wingspan to height ratio is?
I can't say I spent a lot of time on that. No.
I got to do it on my other computer because I got two going.
So
here.
This one doesn't freeze on you?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know Walsh is like 7'2". He's 7'1". He's over 7'1".
Yeah, hang on.
Harper's over 7'1".
So Ron Harper is 6'5", technically. And I just got to put wingspan. Hang on a minute.
7'1". It's over 7'1".
It's over 7'1". 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan. Like that guy's gonna if he just develops a little bit, he should be a defensive monster with arms like that go on forever. Like, and you look at Walsh. Walsh is the same thing. His arms go on forever. They just keep finding these guys that, and this is I think the secret sauce because I was listening to Tim Legler with Bill, and they were talking about how Boston, and they didn't get into the Thunder game because it hadn't happened yet, but Boston's ability to communicate defensively with these wings so that nobody misses assignments and nobody's like wide open anywhere is the reason why they're so good. I know a lot of people want to talk about offense, and pace and all that fun stuff. It's the defensive side of the ball that they're going to probably win a lot of games in the playoffs on. And it's because they just have so many hybrid guys, Walsh, Ugo, Baylor, Tatum, Brown, White can all guard up and guard down. It's insane that they have like 7 guys like this. It's crazy. And they remind me of, in a way, I think they're the closest thing in the league to last year's Pacers team, where they have 12 guys off the bench and every one of them can play. And you're going to see them all, I think, mostly in the playoffs when they play people.
Frankly. Well, that's exactly where I wanted this to go with Barrett. After all of that, and I agree with everything I've just said, Barrett, how deep is this rotation in a playoff series?
I'd say Walsh is out, like he has been out in a lot of these games that Tatum plays. So it's your starting group with Hauser, of course, in there, with Tatum, Keita, Derek White, Jaylen Brown. Ugo's playing. Shireman's definitely playing. One of those centers is going to have to play. So Garza, I think it's just going to be difficult for Vucevic when he comes back from this injury, is right around when the playoffs start. He hasn't been that good. I actually think Garza brings you more in terms of he's a better offensive rebounder. He just, and this isn't a slight on Vucevic. I guess it kind of is. Vucevic is really slow, and Garza does play. Yeah, he's incredibly slow. I mean, dude, it looks like he's got a backpack trying to run up and down the court. I'm like, dude, can we move a little bit faster here? I got the idea of him too, right? Because look, Simon's with this team. We understand why they did the move. You save money, and Tatum was coming back. So how many lineups were you going to have Simons out there, right? Like basically what they've done is they stagger Tatum and Jaylen a lot, and they're pairing White with Tatum and Pritchard with Jaylen, which I think makes total sense in terms of how they play. But Pritchard's the other guy that's going to be in there. And I think right now, like if you guys are going to answer this question, which I'm about to ask you, so you're going to answer this question, who do you think is ahead on Missoula's depth chart right now? Harper or Walsh? I think it would be Harper right now.
Harper. Yeah,
because Harper will shoot. Yeah. I don't understand. Like Walsh, occasionally he'll hit a wing three, he'll hit a corner three. How does anybody go for the guy's head fake? Like he head fakes somehow he gets to the basket that way. I'm like, who is going for this head fake? I don't understand it.
He's shooting, I think, on catch and shoot threes. I think he's up in the 40% though. I think he doesn't shoot a lot, but when he shoots them, they're good ones. And
Harper is just so you know, he's 40% shooter, about 35% from three. Doesn't get to the free throw line all that much, obviously. Walsh is a 53% shooter, about 41% from three. But for me, and I don't know.
It's low volume with both those guys.
Yeah, it is. It's low volume for sure. And the minutes are low. Like Harper right now, in obviously a smaller sample size, he's played 20 games, but he's averaging 12 minutes. Walsh at 58 games, 20 starts, averaging about 17 minutes. But guys, I mean, maybe for me, it's the total package. And maybe I'm being naive about this, but I feel like that's sort of the prism by which Joe looks at a lot of this stuff. So the defense first and foremost, and I'm already giving Harper an edge there over Walsh, as much as I like Walsh and have been praising Walsh up and down. But more than that, would you like to guess what the assist to turnover ratio is for each of these guys?
Is it negative with Walsh? I'd imagine it is.
Walsh is at 1.3. Harper is at 3.8.
There you go.
That is a massive, massive difference.
Yeah. Can't turn the ball over. And I think Walsh has come a long way, no question about it. But yeah, and this is a team that prioritizes not turning the ball over. They're the best in the league at it. So, they again win the possession.
Harper and I, again, we're talking about a tiny sample size by comparison. But Harper's second on the team. I mean, Peyton Pritchard is first.
Pritchard's unbelievable. Pritchard's what, like 4.5 or something?
What's 4.0 on the nose?
Well, dude, he's got that thing on a string right now. Like his ball handling, and look, we've said it in previous seasons, but the fact that his usage rate has gone up this season, and he's actually become, as I alluded to earlier, one of the most. He's averaging 1.21 points per possession as an isolation scorer. And I get it, like he doesn't have the opponent's best guy on him, and at times not even the opponent's best guard on him. But I don't know how he is able to create so much space. Like his step back isn't really even a step back. It's like a double step back. He goes from like the elbow. He gets to the elbow and then somehow he gets all the way out to the 3-point line. And then he does the other move where he gets into the paint and somehow he's then taking like 3 steps backwards to take like a fall away two that when they go in, they never hit the rim. He's got the perfect arc in this. Like, hit that guy's work ethic from like when he was younger. Like I know you guys have seen that video of him like dribbling the ball.
Oh yeah,
in his garage. But you also see like the drills that he does where he's like on one leg dribbling the ball, doing stuff like all these workouts that he does. His ball, like I'd say he's a top 5 ball handler in the NBA. Like it's not as flashy as like Obviously,
Sure.
I think Kyrie's probably the best ball handler of all time. And it's not as flashy as, like, if you go back to Jamal Crawford, right? Jamal Crawford's got the big crossover. He's got the double behind the back move. You think about, like, back in the day, like Iverson's had the big, huge crossover. Marbury had a huge crossover. Pritchard's is like all compact. It's all like functional stuff. So I'm not saying, like, I'm not putting him in that category as these like flashy ball handlers, but just in terms of a pure ball handler and getting to where he wants with his handle, it's unbelievable. Like, I don't know how many guys have better handle than him in the game right now. It's crazy.
Well, I hate that you didn't mention white chocolate, but we'll get over that. We'll put our guy Jason Williams aside. You're right. It's as flashy as some of the other guys are, and taking nothing away from their talent. They just, extra layer of it. Pritchard, it's to your point. It's not like, to the eye, it's not insane until you're really dissecting, like, my God, how many times is that ball hitting the floor as he's working, between the legs or trying to get around a guy? I mean, it's such a right to the going back to the garage exercises and drills. It's low, tight, compact dribbles to the floor and moving quickly. And
you get tired watching it, dude. You get tired watching it. It's like, dude, how many freaking dribbles did he just take? And like, you're trying to guard that, and you're like, okay, which way is he going?
Yeah.
It's just, he has the defender on a string every time.
You can't watch the stomach with Peyton Pritchard the way they teach you when you're a kid.
Yeah, and like, I don't know how he has his body the way that he does. Like, and I understand he's not the tallest guy. He's like 6'1" or whatever. But like, at times it looks like his like back is almost like, in his stomach, I should say, it's like almost parallel to the ground. He's like at a right angle. Like, I don't know how he gets that low.
Well, that's why it's tight. He's just so good at like keeping it so low and keeping his composure and his balance. Like that's where if you watch him in the garage do all those things, that's where it translates. Is when he's in the middle of all this traffic and he's so low to the ground, he can't pick his pocket. It's like almost impossible for you to pick his pocket because the ball's so low to the ground and you got to follow him. Basically, he has so much control of that thing. It's ridiculous. I'm again, you talk about guys leveling up this year. He's right at the top of the list of guys that have leveled up between Tatum, Brown, and Pritchard. It's been a ridiculous run. The only thing about this, just to kind of keep this this road trip kind of in the the forefront of this conversation, because I think we learned a lot about this team. And like the one thing that I thought about as they finished with OKC on late night on, was it Thursday night? It was super late. I just thinking about like, man, like I can see it. I can see the finals run. There's a path.
Well, what's annoying is you didn't get either. You got two, to me, like, all due respect to the Nuggets, and I love the Nuggets. We talk about them all the time, but it does feel like it's going to be either the Thunder or the Spurs in the NBA Finals. And what's a little annoying, not that those games weren't both competitive, is you didn't see either game at full strength. And I'm not even talking about Vooch, obviously. The injury is the injury. But Jaylen getting booted early for what, by the way, was not as bogus as everybody out there on social media wants to paint it as. You got to control your emotions, Jaylen. That's just the reality of it. And then the second game where, again, you're down two starters. So that was the annoying thing. Like, it could have been, I mean, there were fun games to watch anyway. And I think it was, Ev, to your point, an encouraging road trip. And you can see the path and all of these things. But man, I would have loved to watch those games at full strength.
But the thing is, like, they went against Cleveland, OKC, and San Antonio. Those are what, 3 of the top 8 teams in the league?
Sure.
Competitive as hell in every game. And they beat Cleveland. They were up a bunch in that game because Cleveland couldn't find the ocean at all. But I mean, they were highly competitive in all 3 games. And you're starting to think about, the playoffs and the structure of everything. I'm like, man, this team could really do it. I was not even entertaining this because this whole year has been so gravy and unbelievable, so many reasons. But once Tatum comes back, I think everything kind of changes in terms of what you're allowing yourself to believe. After the OKC game, I was like, no, this team can definitely make the finals. And look, that Oklahoma City team last year, an unbelievable team, one of the best teams you've ever seen in your life, went to Game 7 with Indiana. And if Halliburton doesn't tear his Achilles in the first couple of minutes of that game,
who knows?
Pacers could have won that series. So I don't think any of these teams, whether it's Boston, whether it's Detroit, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Denver, I don't think any of these teams are infallible, and I think anybody can win this thing. I really do.
Yeah, I look at it too. as it pertains to the East. So I think when you're looking at the Knicks, and look, the Knicks beat the Celtics last year, fair and square. Tatum was having a great game at 42 points. They were going to lose that game and go down 3-1. Obviously, we would have loved to see what Tatum could have done, because that was one of his best playoff games, to see if they could come back from 3-1. They came back from 3-0 before to force a game 7, of course, a couple of years ago against Miami, and Tatum was a better player at that point, but they got beat. So the Knicks could still beat them, but I will say, when you have your point guard and your center that are both really bad defenders, like, I have a tough time seeing the Knicks win 3 series to get to the NBA Finals. I think Cleveland has potential, and it's going to be important to see Mobley and Allen with Harden, because both those guys have been, first it was Mobley dealing with an injury, then Allen's been dealing with an injury, and Allen and Harden have much better chemistry than Harden has with Mobley right now. But I think that's going to be, like, from just like a talent perspective, I think that's the second most talented team in the East outside of the Celtics. With the Pistons, I look at that team, I just don't think they have enough offense. I know this is not an original thought, but you'd like to have a second guy in your team that can dribble. Like, that's kind of an important skill set in the NBA, and they don't have that right now, unfortunately for them. I mean, I think they should have done more at the trading deadline. So I do think out of that top group, the Celtics are the least flawed, and we still have to find out, like I said, about the centers, but in the postseason. But I look at the rest of the East, and like a couple of months ago, I thought the East was going to be like easy in the playoffs. But Miami, I mean, all Bam jokes aside, Miami's playing really well right now. They have sort of figured some stuff out. They're playing well. They're playing both the bigs at the same time now with Ware and Bam. And we've seen, like, there's this new trend in the NBA where teams are playing big now. This is something that in the past is all, hey, we need position versatility, right? Positionless basketball. Well, now it's kind of swung back the other way, where you kind of need the bigs. And I know Tatum didn't play in the game, but does anybody want to see Charlotte in a series? I don't want any part of that team, especially considering the knowledge that they have on the other side with Charles Lee, who's done an outstanding job coaching that team. And guys, they're just really difficult to defend. They have, to what I was saying about Detroit, and this is not to say that Charlotte's better than Detroit. They've been better since the beginning of the new year. But Knipple can make plays off the dribble and shoot. LaMelo can make plays off the dribble and shoot. Brandon Miller can do it. Now, I think where their issue is with their bigs. I know Diabate has, like, good numbers, but their bigs are not great. I think the Celtics, like, on the other end of the court, I think the Celtics can take advantage of some of what Charlotte can't do defensively in a series. And obviously, I'd pick the Celtics to win. But I don't want to play that series. That team wants to play at a crazy breakneck pace in terms of that. I'm just talking about their half-court offense. Like, they're flying, they're picking for each other. It's just, I don't want no part of that. It's kind of like, I know they swept Indiana, but remember how crazy that offense was when the Celtics played them in the conference finals, where it's like, these guys are just hitting crazy mid-rangers and they're just flying around in the half court. I mean, that was really difficult. That was I know it was a sweep, but they were difficult to defend. And I think some of the Celtics have even acknowledged that. I want no part of playing Charlotte, just because I think it's going to take a lot of energy to defeat that team. And Miami's Miami. We know the scars there.
So look, not only do I believe Boston's going farther than New York this postseason, March 14th, mark it down. Not that I haven't alluded to it earlier. I think Boston's going to be the one to eliminate New York. I think the Celtics are getting revenge off of last year. I think the bracket is going to align that way. I think the Celtics will take down the Knicks. I think if I'm going to go a step further with this crystal ball, I think they're going to do it in their house. I think it's going to happen at MSG, and all those bing bong hopefuls outside are going to be it. It's going to be storybook from Jayson Tatum with the way all of this is going to go. But I want to use that to transition to Tatum before we're, self-imposed out of time here. I know it's a podcast. We could go forever, but it's kind of what, I don't feel bad necessarily. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that want to hear more about Tatum, and we've been saving that partially because last week with Grandy was the Tatum show, talking about his return. Well, 3 games now, and Barrett, you highlighted some of this earlier. 27 minutes per on the nose, by the way, 27.0, 19.7 points, 6.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1 steal, no blocks, 1.3 on the turnovers. That's a 2.8 assist to turnover ratio. He is shooting 40% from the field, 29% from 3 on a ridiculous 10 attempts per game. I would like that to come down. Free throws are about 86%. He's not driving in the way that, no shock there, but only 2.3 attempts per. He's not aggressively getting himself to the line. That will come. He's still getting comfortable. I don't know how anybody out there could be the least bit disappointed by what you've seen so far from Jayson Tatum. In fact, I think it's the opposite. What he is doing so far through 3 games is so beyond, I think, what reasonable expectations were out of the chute, off the 10 months out, 42 and a half weeks, whatever it was, of, almost 300 days not playing any competitive basketball, no training camp, no preseason, really hardly any practices, even with teammates, just based on what their schedule and travel and everything looks like. For him to walk back out on the floor, some of it a little forced, and that's okay. He's trying to find his footing. I get it. But for him to be averaging 20 and 7 and showing in flashes, at least, the old Tatum, every once in a while, obviously he's not there yet, but every once in a while you're getting the little bursts, the little moments, like that dunk followed by the 3-pointer in that first game, like 30 seconds apart. You're getting little moments. I can't, I'm not wishing time away, but I can't wait to see what this looks like come round 2 of the playoffs after, another, whatever it is, 5 weeks of watching Tatum knock the rust off.
Yeah, I think he's looked as good as you could possibly expect from a guy coming back less than 10 months from an Achilles situation where he tore his Achilles and he's already back. I think there's a couple of things, like I think probably when we look at this at the end of the year, I think the shooting percentages are going to look bad. I think it's just going to take him a while to get into a rhythm. And I still think there is this part, like we got to see what he looks like at the end here, because yeah, he has come back, but he's only played 3 games. Let's see how this looks in a couple of weeks. And the other component that I mentioned here is I think it's real interesting the way they've run some offense for him, where in the first game, he was like coming out of the corner a couple of times, getting screens. And this Celtics offense is a little bit different than the offense he's played before. And that's why I do think when you look at how Missoula's sort of balancing these minutes, I mentioned him with White all the time, but also you see like Hauser is playing a lot of his minutes with Tatum. Like those guys are on the court together because of the familiarity there. So, and the other element to this is I would just say the good thing for the Celtics, and this is probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that has happened all season long. Jaylen Brown, as we just saw the other night against OKC, he is a legitimate bona fide number 1 option. And I know we've had these questions before about Jaylen. He is a legit number 1 option. Like when he wants to get to his spots, he can. He overwhelms defenders from a physical standpoint. So, like, they're trying to run a lot of offense through Tatum. And if it looks like it does right now, okay, you still have a pretty good, like a really good player, a really good option as Jayson Tatum, could be like right now, Jaylen's just better than Tatum right now because Tatum is still making his way back from this injury. But it's okay if Tatum doesn't get back to the guy he was last year before you get to the playoffs in some sense, because you do have a guy that can take over games in Jaylen Brown. So I think from that perspective, because you have what you had from Jaylen, I think it gives Tatum a little bit of a cushion here where he doesn't have to be Jayson Tatum from last year. Now, hopefully by the time, knock on wood, you get to this point, like there was a situation where I think by the time you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, he could actually look like close to himself again. But he's got sort of this buffer because he has Jaylen playing with him, where it's okay that he's not sort of the guy that he was a season ago. And I also think it's okay to admit that. Like, as crazy as we all wanted to go after the games that we've seen Tatum play, because it's great to see him out there, he's not the same guy yet. I mean, I think it's normal that he's not the same guy yet. I mean, you've seen it in terms of, I think it does help him that he's never been like the most explosive athlete. Like, that's not how he gets his advantages. And I think because he's so big, right? He's a 6'9", 6'10" guy. I think he has built-in advantages that they can take advantage of just from his height. But I think all in all, he's looked, I mean, it's been impressive to see him come back.
No question. I just hope that the balance at the end of these games, because like you look at that Oklahoma City game as a great example. You know, it's going to come down to Shea and somebody on the other side going shot for shot. And I'm going to be honest with you boys, in this particular season, I want Jaylen going shot for shot at the end of these games. I don't care if it's against Shea, whoever it is. I want Jaylen there, and I want Jaylen to have the ball instead of having Tatum with it. I think Jaylen's he just gets into his stuff a little bit faster than Jayson does. And I think the one thing that I think is really interesting is the staggering of the two guys. You could not, I think the style of play is so different. Like Jayson is very deliberate, walks the ball up very slow. And I do think that Jaylen does try and push a lot more. And if you've watched, you know, they haven't had a ton of time to do this just because like he was tossed in the first 15 minutes of the game against San Antonio, and Tatum obviously didn't play in the Thunder game. But if you had the opportunity to watch the difference between those two styles in those games, I think you'd have a pretty clear indication that Jaylen is the guy that should be the guy with his ball in his hand at the end of the game, because it's always been Tatum, and I get why, but Jaylen's just been on so good this year, and he's a better player than Tatum is right now, no question about it.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, he should be, though. off of, again, no injury, playing an entire season. Everybody wants to. Stan Van Gundy couldn't get enough of this the other night. The whole, 2 MVP candidates going head to head. Like, I'm sorry, until SGA or Jokic or some of these guys miss more games, Jaylen Brown is not an MVP candidate. Unless we are loosely defining that by he will receive votes. He's not going to sniff winning the award, and that is not a knock on Jaylen Brown. He's had a career season. It's been incredible to watch. This team is not where it is without Jaylen Brown. So don't any of you in the YouTube comment section pick that up. Goffman hates Jaylen. This is more Jaylen slander. Jaylen Brown is everything I wish I could be in this world. Jaylen is incredible. Doesn't mean he's going to win MVP or that he should win MVP. Joe Mazzulla should be the coach of the year, and the fact that probably won't happen in favor of Bickerstaff, eking out the number 1 seed, that's asinine. That's blasphemy. But that's a whole other thing, and it doesn't really matter. And I appreciate that Joe doesn't give a crap about that. And I think maybe on some level, but not outwardly. And I think this team is now where earlier in the year you could do the whole, is this team being underrated? Are they being undervalued? Are they not being talked about? All gone. All gone. Everybody nationally is bending over backwards to praise the Boston Celtics up and down, is lining up to say this is the team to beat in the East. Even if you don't believe it, people are going. Nick Wright is saying the Boston Celtics are going to win the NBA championship. So listen, this will play out however it plays out. But the ride, not to harp on things that we've talked about before, Ev, in past seasons even, and I know Grandy has gone on soliloquies about this of late, but the specific path and lack of expectation going into this year versus where we are right now and what is still to come in the months ahead, hopefully, is a large part of what makes this particular season so much fun. Because next year, all those expectations return, and they're going to move, make whatever moves they make in the offseason to, surround Brown and a healthy Tatum and the depth and the young guys and the pieces, and give Joe all of the, hopefully necessary components to be firmly right there entrenched among the championship favorites come the offseason on through the year. And hopefully they can live up to that and be in the dance and everything. But right now they had to earn this. They had to earn their place right now. I mean, the Celtics were 60-1 preseason odds to win the championship, something like that. Now it's like 6-1. So again, so much fun. Tatum, I think, is going to be a big part of it down the stretch. I think he's going to have to be, which is an unfair expectation to put upon him. But if this team is going to fully Barrett climb up that mountain, we all know how they're going to get there. And it's not Jaylen alone. He can't do it by himself. Not a knock. Most teams can't.
Yeah, and I'm optimistic that we're going to see Tatum continue to get better as this thing goes on. I mean, it's real difficult to do. I mean, think about it. If you were a Major League Baseball player coming in 2/3 of the season, or even more than that, 2/3 of the season in, and they said, hey, you're not even getting spring training, right? Like baseball players are down there 2 weeks getting their timing right. And Tatum's coming into the middle of this season where this team is, at this point, when he comes back, they're second in the East playing at this high level, and he's trying to get back and fit it now. But I will say this, just in terms of Jaylen, I think we all owe Tracy McGrady. We got to say thank you to Tracy McGrady, because after 2019, apparently Jaylen was going to ask for a trade. He goes out to Houston to hang out with T-Mac, and he said this on T-Mac and Vince Carter's podcast, that he told him, no, you got to realize like what's there for you, like having Tatum next to you. And I think part of that is, T-Mac and Vince Carter, of course, they
coming from two guys that should never have broken up. That means a lot.
I mean, dude, and I know everybody talks about like Penny Hardaway and his injuries, like what he would have been if he never got injured. But T-Mac, man, that dude he's 6'8", essentially like he could play point guard. Like his career got robbed basically because of the back injuries. Him and Grant Hill, to me, like those guys.
Grant Hill,
Yeah, like those two guys and Penny Hardaway just stunk. But thank you, Tracy McGrady. I think every Celtics fan wants to thank Tracy for this.
I mean, among other things, he trains with Tracy in the offseason, and you can see the stuff that T-Mac and him have worked on. I mean, it's just
Oh yeah, the footwork.
All that mid-range stuff and the footwork, that's all T-Mac right there. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say it's all T-Mac. Jaylen obviously puts in the work, but
Yeah, he can do it.
for sure.
Well, again, Celtics, massive 20-point favorites coming up in this Saturday night game, which I don't even know the last time I saw a team favored by 20 points in an NBA game. It's as it happened all season, I don't think it has. But then you got the Suns, who have come back down to earth. Little 3-game homestand punctuated by Al Horford's return to the Garden with the Golden State Warriors, where maybe this time around he'll divulge the real reason that he wanted to leave Boston, because apparently it wasn't money or chasing championships, and he's going to put that out in his book one day. Then he hit the road for a couple. Yeah.
Did you see that Porzingis on this road trip he has coming up right now? He's going to play every single former team he's been on.
No.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
His reaction was so funny to that too. He's like, "Really, all of them?"
Yep.
That's hilarious.
So
let me pull up Golden
Well,
State.
and let's also he's not going to play them all, right?
He's not playing. I don't think he's playing any of them.
Yeah.
Why would
I feel, dude, that I still can't understand that situation.
So Golden State, New York, Washington, Boston, Detroit. That's incredible. Atlanta, Dallas. Yeah, that's quite the trip. New York, Washington, Boston, Detroit, Atlanta, Dallas. That's nuts.
All of them.
That's crazy. Yeah. Can we get him on the Pistons real quick?
Unprecedented. Yeah, I know, right?
Just for a game. Come on back.
Hey, why not?
Oh, all right. Well, again, check out Barrett, Ringer, and Spotify, Off the Pike podcast. It's Brian Barrett on Twitter. We always like to thank you for supporting our good friends over at PrizePicks. Remind you to check out the CLNS Media YouTube page, the All Access page specifically for great Celtics content, hopefully, as you feel this show is. And you can rate, review, subscribe to the podcast if you just want the audio version and you don't want to look at these three gentlemen. And there are I will direct you to, I rarely do this, I should do it more, to one Evan Valenti's Instagram page for active stories about more great sponsors that are on the way right here on Celtics Beat. So, boys, always fun. I said it before. Welcome to March. I know it's mid-March, but the madness is coming. Conference tournaments wrapping up, and the Field of 68 will be unveiled in a matter of hours. So, should be a good time for the tourney. Unless, of course, you're a Syracuse fan like the three of us. Barrett, thank you so much.
Anytime, fellas. Enjoyed it.
All right. For Ev, I am Adam. Of course, Brian. We thank everyone behind the scenes as well. We will talk to you again next time here on Celtics Beat.